Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be ranking all 10 seasons of Smallville. So before I start, I just want to say this video is over a week late, and the reason for this is the SD card I was using on my phone got corrupted and I had to start over. But now I'm finally done and we're good to go. So this ranking was pretty easy to make because my opinions of the show have not changed in the slightest. Most seasons of the show are great, but some of them aren't as great as others. And please keep in mind, this is just my opinion. Also, this is your major spoiler warning, as I will be covering pretty much the entire show. So if you haven't watched Smallville, I recommend you do so and then come back to this video, but for everyone else, let's begin. So coming in at number 10 is going to be Season 7. Now this is a very polarizing season among fans. Some consider it to be a misunderstood gem of sorts, while others like myself consider it to be the lowest the show could possibly go. However, I still ended up liking this season, even if it's not great. Season 7 fell victim to the Writers Guild of America's strike, and as a result the show was cut down to just 20 episodes, rather than the usual 22. The story tried to cram way too many ideas into those 20 episodes, resulting in pacing issues, a lack of focus, and several storylines ending rather abruptly. It took way too long for the Veritas storyline to be set up. The storyline involving Grant Gabriel was interesting at first. You know, he was revealed to be Lex's long-lost brother, but then they kill him off after the first half, so yeah, that went nowhere. Kara Zor-El, aka Supergirl, just kinda comes and goes throughout the season, and in the second half she has this whole amnesia storyline which I didn't like. Even the conflict between her and her father Zor-El ended very abruptly. Bizarro was only in about 3 episodes, Green Arrow only returned for 1, and because of all of this, the fact that the writer's strike affected this season clearly showed in the end result. I also didn't like the way they treated several characters. Firstly, they brought back Pete for what is arguably one of the worst episodes in the history of Smallville. Episode 13, Hero. You know where I stand on that episode. If you don't, go and watch my Season 7 review. And then, Lana. Lana supposedly died in a car explosion at the end of Season 6, and that could have been a send-off for her if you think about it. But no, they decided to bring her back, and they brought her back in one of the dumbest ways possible. Oh Lex, remember you cloned me? Yeah? Do you remember that? Oh my gosh, the moment I heard that, I almost burst out laughing. And in the episode Roth, where she basically gets Clark's powers, she acts so entitled that it's kind of annoying. And the back and forth melodrama between her and Clark got really old by this point. But I will admit, I do like the darker side to her character, and her final scene was actually quite touching. This could have been the perfect send-off for her, but no, they had to bring her back for Season 8. And even Clark as a character himself was still kind of running away from his destiny again. These hesitations were unnecessary at this point, but this season still had a lot of great things going for it. The introduction to Supergirl and her relationship with Clark, the introduction to Black Canary, Lois finding out Green Arrow's identity, Tom Welling's portrayal of Bizarro, and let's not forget the redemption and tragic death of Lionel Luthor at the hands of his own son, Lex. Lionel's death was quite possibly even more tragic than Jonathan Kent's death, and it was a fitting yet bittersweet end for my favorite character. And believe it or not, John Glover, who played Lionel, has his own personal theory about how Lionel Luthor is the true hero of Smallville. Well, I don't even need to read it because I know it's true. And last but not least, Lex Luthor's descent into madness, which ultimately culminates in the final scene of the finale, and arguably one of the best scenes in the entire show, between him and Clark, where he finally discovers the truth. So overall, this season was ambitious yet flawed. You could feel the creative exhaustion of Alfred Gough and Miles Miller at this point, but it's still a decent season in the show. So I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10. Coming in at number 9, and this may be controversial, so brace yourselves, Season 1. Now just because this season is so low on the list doesn't mean that it's necessarily bad or mediocre. It's actually great. but in my opinion, the show definitely got better as it went along. It had so many great things going for it. The pilot episode, the introduction to Smallville High and the characters, some of the Monster of the Week episodes were cool, the episode Stray with the character Ryan, the subtext regarding 9/11 and Islamophobia, the Dawson's Creek-ish teen drama tone that they were going for, especially if you grew up in the early 2000s like me, all of that stuff was great. However, the Monster of the Week format grew stale not even halfway through the season, and some episodes were not particularly great, like Metamorphosis for example. Although the meteor freak in it, Bug Boy, did return for the season 10 episode Homecoming. But overall, season 1 is still a solid, if imperfect, foundation for the show, and I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. Coming in at number 8 is gonna be season 2. Season 2 did an excellent job in taking the ideas from Season 1 and building on them. Clark learns more about his lineage through Dr. Swan, played by Christopher Reeve, the introductions to Red Kryptonite and Jor-El, and Clark discovering his heat vision through hormones was pretty hilarious. Lana's living situation changing and the truth about her biological father, all the drama between Lex and Lionel, and even Lionel faking blindness for a couple of episodes was pretty cool. And of course, Pete finally discovering Clark's secrets. And the finale ended on one of the most shocking cliffhangers in the history of the show, with Clark blaming himself for Martha's miscarriage and ultimately giving in to the Red Kryptonite yet again and leaving Smallville. However, this season still fell into the same narrative trappings as its predecessor. While it did tend to focus more on its story arcs, it hadn't fully escaped the Monster of the Week format. And there's some episodes that I either didn't like or they just kind of went nowhere. For example, the episode Ryan. I told you to skip this episode because I just don't like the ending of it. Basically, Ryan dies of a brain tumor. It's emotional, but for me personally, it's kind of depressing in the long run. And I had the season 1 episode Stray on VHS. I was obsessed with it growing up, and so to find out all these years later that he died in the next season, yeah, sorry, I just can't. And then there's the episode Visitor. It had an interesting idea of a kid believing that he is from another planet. This could potentially mean he's a Kryptonian, but it goes nowhere. He's just insane, I guess. And the episode Lineage, about a woman who claims to be the biological mother of both Clark and Lex, but you can kind of guess how that turns out. But overall, season 2 was a great follow-up to season 1, and I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. Coming in at number 7, and this might trigger some people because it should be lower on the list, season 4. I know what you guys are thinking. What? Season 4? Better than seasons 1 and 2? Blasphemy! How dare you say that? Okay, so let me explain. This season had so much going for it that I really appreciated the direction that it took the show in from this point onwards. The main storyline centered on Clark trying to acquire all 3 of the Knowledge Stones in order to gain access to the Fortress of Solitude. He also flew for the first time in the premiere episode. We were introduced to Lois Lane this season, Margot Kidder was a special guest star, Lionel Luthor began his redemption arc in this season. There was also the episode Onyx, where Lex was split into good and evil versions of himself. The episode Run introduced Impulse, who would later go on to join the Justice League. The finale took inspiration from 24 by having its own special timer. And honestly, I didn't even mind the Lana storyline. I thought it was pretty interesting. And even Clark finally getting to play football was also exciting. Clark Kent the football player, what could have been? However, this season made a couple of mistakes in the process. For example, parts of the show's formula were beginning to get stale by this point. You know, Clark was still in high school, the on and off banter between him and Lana, the conflict between him and his parents regarding his powers, the return to a lighter tone compared to season 3, not a good move in my opinion. And some episodes were either not great or they featured really bizarre uses of kryptonite. For example, kryptonite soda, kryptonite plastic surgery, etc. But overall, season 4 was a satisfying end to the high school era of Smallville, and I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. Coming in at number 6, and this is going to be controversial because it should be higher on the list, Season 3. Now don't get me wrong, I love Season 3. It's just that while some people prefer the high school seasons of the show, others like myself prefer the later seasons, where the show evolved and delved into territories that had never been explored before. I know that the high school era is the era that I technically grew up with when it comes to Smallville, but still, I rest my case. So this is one of the darkest seasons the show has ever had. I mean, the premiere episode pretty much set the tone for it. Clark had a really good arc this season. You know, he starts out under the influence of red kryptonite, causing chaos in Metropolis until Jonathan and Jor-El step in to help him see reason. Jor-El continues to communicate with him through the Kawachi caves, and his relationship with Lana has taken somewhat of a backseat. The Luthors were pretty much the best part about this season, with Lex starting off stranded on an island, losing his sanity, and then when he comes back, things don't really get much better. Lionel was probably the most villainous he could ever be in this season, with the episode Memoria featuring the worst possible thing he could do to Clark. There was also the introduction of Alicia, a temporary love interest for Clark. Their relationship was one of the highlights of the season as well, and she even returned for 2 episodes in season 4, only to be killed off. But thanks to her, Chloe found out Clark's secret in that season. And the finale was absolutely amazing, and it ended with one of the best cliffhangers possibly in TV history. However, this season did have its flaws here and there. The storyline with Lana and Adam Knight definitely dragged the season down a little bit, and it pretty much amounted to a dead end, so what was the point exactly? And some episodes felt like rehashes of episodes from previous seasons. The episode Magnetic felt like a rehash of the season 1 episode Hug. But overall, season 3 was a step in the right direction for the high school era of Smallville, and I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10.